Hello everyone, welcome to the 24th episode of interview with Professor Franz Ruppert, and this is brought to you live from Munich, right here in his beautiful office during summer now. It's still summertime now. Hello Professor.
Hello Christine, welcome.
Today we are very happy to be here in your beautiful office. Yeah,
I'm glad that you come.
Yeah, and today we want to have a chat on the topic of, it's a very sensitive topic.
Okay.
It is on molestation, sexual assault, rape. We did talk about before on child sexual abuse, and now we talk about like maybe more, grown up. So according to the identity theory and your experience, what causes someone who is an adult person to commit molestation, sexual assault, and rape?
Okay. Yeah, I think there are the main reason they lie in the childhood still, because sexuality is something that is sometimes so confusing for us as human beings, and I fear the majority of us not really did learn how to, in a good way, in a healthy way, deal with sexuality. And we didn't learn it as a child, and we had all this maybe bad experiences as a child, and we saw other adults that also do not know how to deal with sexuality. So we grow up in a way that sexuality stays something very strange, mysterious, has many secrets about this, and so nobody really knows how to integrate sexuality in a good way in their own personality, in your identity. So there's still the lack of knowing how to deal with sexuality as a man or a woman, and so of course when you are not sure enough, you don't feel safe, you are not in a good way and know how to bring sexuality in a relationship, and so that so many things then can happen, that you cross borders, even if you do not even if you do not feel that you cross the borders. You have to do it without sensing it. You say something, you touch somebody, or you go closer to somebody, and you are not aware that this person doesn't feel comfortable with this, or does this, and in this person also can be something be triggered from childhood. So, for example, as a man, if you go to a woman, and maybe men very often think, oh, she invites me, she looks at me, and this is like an offer to come closer. And
very often things.
Yeah, it's very often it happens. There are also already psychological experiments they did, and it was clearly shown that even the women themselves believe, I didn't give any signal towards a man that he should come closer to me. The men, they thought, oh, there are clear signals. There was an
inviting them.
Invitation to come closer, and so there's a big difference also in the way how men and women perceive their sexuality and their sexual behavior. Yeah. One thing is sexuality is something very biological. Yeah, it comes from our biology, and we are, in a way, we human beings are biological beings. Yeah, we are not so different from the rest of biology as we sometimes think we are exceptional. We are not. We are not. We are part of nature. We are part of animals. We are part of the evolution, and so our sexuality is part of nature and part of evolution, and so. In this evolution, we have two types of sexuality, male and female, and so the perspective of the male is different from the perspective of the female. Yeah, and they have different duties in this biological process of procreation, and so men have a different perspective on this. They have the desire for sexuality is much bigger than the desire normally for women is, and when a woman is engaged with children, she is not so much interested in sexuality than the men are, because they are not so engaged with the children. Their sexual desire is every day there. Maybe in the females there are periods where they don't have any interest in sexuality at all. So we have to accept this, that we have this biological fundament of sexuality, and then the question is how we bring it together, our biology and our culture and our identity, and make our biological part of the sexuality to transform it in a way that is acceptable, that it is in a society that it is acceptable, and that it doesn't do harm to others, or even worse, traumatizing others, because the sexuality we know has the potential to traumatize another person.
So where then can you draw the line? Like, for example, most of the perpetrating acts are done when they say they can't control. They can't control the desires and or the impulse to do something, or that turns out to be an attack. So how then, how do you explain with the identity theory about this portion? Are they in survival?
Yeah, in many times the sexuality is used as a survival strategy. It can be used as a distraction, for example, distracting from problems you have, from not feeling good, and then you think acting out sexuality makes you feel better and maybe give you more self-esteem, or for example for a man who may have a low self-esteem, and if he thinks, no, I can make sex with a woman that gives me more power, then I'm more control, then I'm worthy more. I'm worth more. So this.
Again, illusion that.
And also all these sorts of illusions about how good I am when I'm sexually potent, and so this is so we can use make use of our sexuality for surviving purposes, and so this is of course one thing that we have to learn. Do I use my sexuality as a surviving strategy, or does it come out from a healthy part of mine? And this means when it comes out from a healthy part, first of all, I can enjoy sexuality for myself. It's the same. I do not need a partner maybe for sexuality. It can also be self-stimulating by sexuality, and you enjoy your body. And the other thing is that if you use sexuality as a thing that brings you into a relationship with another person, of course, then it's important for you that you are aware you are in your healthy part, and the other person is also in their healthy part. That you do not want the other person to be in the surviving part.
How do you know that the other person is in?
That is how
healthy or survival part.
That is how we have to learn all the time. We have to learn in so many aspects. You have to learn. Am I in my healthy part now? Is the other person in a healthy part? And then this, of course, if both are in a healthy part, and then they have good sex and they have good way of dealing with that, and there is the consequences of this encounter is also something that you can take responsibility for. Otherwise, you can't. If you do sexuality out of the surviving strategy, then this has consequences. And then you can't, in any way, you can't be responsible for the consequences. What does it mean? Is there a longer relationship, or if a child can be the consequence? Also, the question is, do you take the responsibility for that? And the same with illnesses. Of course, you can infections and all sorts of things that can happen in sexuality. And so, it needs, in a way, you can say, it's so necessary that you are in a healthy part, your partner is in a healthy part, that sexuality does not do harm.
Okay, so let's just talk about this doing harm. Through my experience, perpetrators are not aware that their acts are being wrong, and even blame it on the victims. How is this possible? Explaining from identity theory.
The very principal thing is about perpetration is, if I am a perpetrator, normally I'm not in contact with myself.
Okay.
I already have given up.
Even after the act?
first, before.
Before first, yeah.
In most of cases, you have already given up the contact with yourself. No? You are not in contact with your health support. Then you are, in a surviving strategy, and then you are not aware, that you're doing harm to others, and then you can't take responsibility for that.
Okay.
Yeah? And then you. Afterwards, if you are blamed, you did harm to me, then you would find some excuses, find some interpretation for what you have done. What helps you to look a little bit better. Yeah. Oh, I'm not so bad. What's bad is the other person, maybe the victim, and then you blame the victim. You seduced me.
Yes.
Or
you asked for it.
You asked for it, or unconsciously you wanted, and so on. All these sorts of things that are sexual perpetrators are telling their victims. It's so quite normal. And it's a few arguments normally they bring. Yeah, you invite me. Your shirt was too short.
Too short.
And
you wear too little.
And what else? Okay. It's just a handful of arguments that normally the perpetrators tell and blame the victim.
So it is, how then can we support them to, say if clients come to us for help and they maybe realize or that they have done something. Yeah, so how then as facilitators, do we support the perpetrators if they come for support?
If at all they come for support, this is a big step if somebody comes out of perpetration to our seminars, because normally they come out of the feelings I'm a victim, no? And then they come. But if a perpetrator comes, it's a big step they do, of course.
Oh, let's say again, normally they come, it's normally them feeling as a victim.
Normally if somebody comes in...
Even though they are the perpetrator?
Yeah, normally.
Okay.
Yeah. You go, you feel like a victim. And in many cases also true, you are made a victim. And if you have the courage to say, oh my God, I was a perpetrator and I did something wrong, please help me. That is a very big step, and of course we can help those people too, and make them aware about that they did it out of their surviving strategies, out of it that they are not in contact with themselves. And then the question is, why are you not in contact with yourself? What happened to you? And then of course we will find all those things that happens during our early phases of life. Then we are really made a victim. We were not wanted. We were not loved. We were not ourselves protected, and then. And then, then that brings the perpetrator towards the real reasons of perpetrations, and then he can stop it. Then this is the only way. That's the only way. That's the only. If you want to have a guarantee that you do not do perpetration again, do not do it again, the only way is that you look at yourself, your biography. What did you experience? What happened to you? And then you become somebody who feels again empathy with themselves, and if you feel the empathy with yourself, this is the only way. The only way that you feel really empathy with others, that you respect also the others. If you respect yourself,
that's a very good point.
If you respect yourself, then you will also are able to respect others. And if they say, "Oh, I don't want to be touched," or "I want to be like," then you respect it, because the same it's true for you.
Respect first start from ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is your perspective of victims in this instance? How can the identity theory explain their experience, them being victims? Like some often maybe in cycles and patterns. Whether is it first time or repeated times.
But very often is if you are grown up, and sometimes something happens, and this you maybe feel it worse than it is, because there is already something before, or there was something before in your childhood that then is triggered by an actual experience. Something could be triggered from your childhood. From the childhood times, you don't have access to it. It is all split off and cannot be remembered. It was so early when you were very small, and now something happened, and now you oh yeah, now you are aware it was not okay. It doesn't feel good, and it could be that behind this there's the older things, the older experiences.
Okay.
Yeah, and so also it has to be cleared. Is it really the actual situation that did the harm to me, or was the full amount of my suffering, or is this just the top of the iceberg, and below there is my childhood trauma, my childhood sexual trauma? So it could be. In any case, but in any case we can help. In any case we can. If somebody sets up an intention about this, and this will show. Is it about the momentarily situation? Is it like this, or is it something older? And so our method is very useful for that, to clear this and bring more clearness to it. Yeah? And also to see how much this sexual thing is a consequence of that I'm not in contact with myself. That I go into situations, I trust others.
Right, like overly too much, or
too much,
or can't see certain
take too much
clues.
risk, and I should have stopped before. So that normally happens, that you can't see the risk if you are not in contact with yourself, or you see too much risk where there is
that could be the other extreme. Where they are just paranoid and
paranoid. Every man is a perpetrator, or every woman wants to do harm to me. Or, so it's and this our therapy, I think it's very helpful to bring it to the point. What is it all about? Yeah? What is the original reason, and to sort out, and that you do not. Then you are not the rest of your life afraid of contact with others and afraid of sexuality.
So how then can we support the victims through the method of intention, through this method? How then can we support them as...
Yeah, they have an intention, they talk about what concerns them in the moment.
To first support them to
They see how the inner world is, how the perpetrator is represented in them, how the actual perpetrator and the perpetrator may be in the background, and so on and so on. All these typical relationships we have normally as a child, because then always the mother is an important point. How is the mother internally represented by me? Did she protect me, or did I feel betrayed by her, not protected? So everything shows up and helps you to get clearer and to progress personally.
So can they stop the pattern, huh?
Of course, of course. You can. The more you know, the easier you can stop it.
It becomes clearer.
The more you come into contact with yourself, the more it's clear what to do, what can give you protection.
So how can family members healthily support the victims who are adults and children?
Yeah, the one thing to encourage them look at it, and don't so much rely on us. You are now, maybe you've grown up and you're old enough to look at yourself and your own things. And on the other side, of course, if the parents have their own issues, then we encourage them to look at their own issues. But more normally, it's fruitful to look at.
Everybody look at...
Yeah, everybody looks at its own experience in life and biography.
Okay, so the best method is still to look at yourself through the method of intention, and it's been very useful for both victims and perpetrators. So I really want to encourage all of you to come forward and be curious. And so for more interviews, I do have many more interviews with Professor Franz. You can check out my YouTube channel and with more details. And also, if you are residing in Singapore and Asia, do feel free to contact me if you want to find out and be curious about your life, and and how to move ahead if you are in such a situation. So thank you, Professor.
You're welcome, Christine.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.